Yorkshire, October 1892. Alistair Whitlock, a debt-ridden London solicitor, gripped the ash-stained letter that promised salvation or damnation. His uncle, Ezekiel Whitlock, had died under mysterious circumstances at Blackthorn Manor, leaving Alistair as the sole heir. The solicitor's words echoed, "A fortune awaits if you survive the night." The carriage jolted to a stop outside. The moors sprawled like a rotten tapestry, fog suffocating the horizon. The driver, a grizzled man with milky eyes, refused to go further. "No coin's worth feeding the hungry lady," he rasped, crossing himself. "Your uncle's bones ain't even cold in the crypt, and she's still starving." Alistair trudged uphill, the manor's jagged silhouette piercing the twilight. Iron gates shrieked as he pushed through vines, strangled the walls, and the air reeked of wet soil and burnt hair. His uncle's last letter fluttered in his mind. "Beware the West Wing. Burn this." He hadn't. The foyer was a sepulchre of shadows. Dust choked the air. A grand staircase spiraled into darkness, its banisters carved with screaming faces to his left. A portrait of Ezekiel hung askew, eyes gouged out, throat slashed in the canvas. Alistair's candle sputtered. Rats, he lied to himself. But the scratching became a rhythm, tap, drag, tap, like a crippled thing learning to walk. His pulse quickened. A cold draft hissed through the hall, carrying whispers. "Flee while you still can." Alistair climbed the stairs, each step groaning. The second-floor corridor stretched endlessly. Doors warped shut. At the end, a cracked mirror reflected his pale face, and behind him, a hunched silhouette. He spun. Nothing. Retreating, he stumbled into a study. Books lay scorched in the hearth. A mahogany desk bore deep gouges, as if clawed by a beast. Inside the top drawer, he found a locket, cold, tarnished silver. It sprang open. Lockets, discordant music, Baki Pez. Inside, a portrait of Ezekiel glared back until the paint bubbled, reshaping into Alistair's own face. He recoiled, the walls trembled, dust rained from the ceiling as a guttural wail echoed through the manor, a sound no human throat could make. Distant scream, window shutters slam. Alistair fled to the parlor. Moonlight bled through grime-caked windows, illuminating a child's doll propped on the settee. Its porcelain face cracked into a grin, glass eyes tracking him. "Play with us, Alistair." A chorus of children giggled from nowhere and everywhere. Alistair collapsed into a moth-eaten armchair. The study's fireplace roaring to life, unbidden flames clawed at the air, casting hellish shadows. Gold first, ghosts later, he told himself, rifling through his uncle's desk. But the heat intensified, unnatural, hungry. The fire spat a glowing ember onto his sleeve. He batted it away, only to freeze. The ash on the rug swirled, forming a woman's skeletal face. Her jaw unhinged, thief. The flames hissed. Alistair stumbled back as the fireplace belched black smoke, reeking of charred flesh. He tore open a desk drawer, desperate for answers. Beneath ledger books crusted in wax, he found Ezekiel's journal. The first entry dripped with arrogance. June 1889. "Tonight I dine with Lady Morwen. She claims lineage older than the Domesday Book, and a hunger no gold can sate." Later entries frayed. October 1889. The locket binds her to Blackthorn souls in exchange for the manor's wealth, a fair trade. December 1890. The portraits watch me. I've ordered the servants to burn the West Wing mirrors. September 1891. She whispers through the walls. The locket grows cold. God help me. Alistair's breath hitched. The scratching from earlier returned, louder, closer, as if something burrowed inside the walls. He followed the sound to a collapsed hallway, plaster dust snowing from the ceiling. Beneath shattered bricks, a skeletal hand jutted upward, clutching a rusty key. Its fingers twitched. Alistair recoiled, but the journal's final page screamed, "The cellar, break the chain, you must." The rest was torn away, stained with brownish-red fingerprints. Midnight. The manor groaned like a living thing. Alistair pocketed the key, sweat soaking his collar. A cold draft snuffed his candle. In the dark, something inhaled sharply behind him, rancid breath frosting his neck. He fumbled for the locket. Its hinges creaked and the twisted melody began. A nursery rhyme played in reverse. The air thickened, shadows pooled into a figure at the hall's end. A child in a tattered nightgown, head tilted at an impossible angle. Uncle lied at list, black liquid oozing from its lips. He promised us to her, now she wants you. The child lurched forward, bones snapping like kindling. Alistair fled, the thing's giggles echoing, "Run, run, run." He barricaded himself in the cellar, heart hammering. Wine racks lay toppled, bottles shattered, but the room was wrong. The walls pulsed faintly, veined with black rot. At the far end, a padlocked door bore a warning in dried blood, "Don't free her." The key fit, the lock clattered to the floor. Alistair hesitated, the locket burning against his chest. From beyond the door came a wet, rhythmic sound, like a tongue. And Alistair stood before the cellar door. Its wood bloated with damp, the locket seared his skin like a brand. He pushed it open. Cold air slapped his face, reeking of copper and spoiled milk. A stone staircase plunged into pitch blackness. His match revealed walls scrawled with mad symbols, eyes, hooks, spirals. Ezekiel's voice echoed from the void. "She gives sight to those who pay the toll." Alistair descended, each step slick with moss, the whimpers crystallized into a child's plea. "Don't let her see you." Darkness swallowed him. Something brushed his ankle, a small, icy hand. He kicked free, stumbling into a chamber lit by a single shaft of moonlight. At its center stood an ornate mirror, its frame carved with screaming faces. His reflection stared back until it blinked. The Alistair in the mirror smiled, teeth sharpening into needles. "Poor little heir," it crooned, voice oily. "Uncle sold us all. First the servants, then the children, now you." Behind mirror Alistair, shadows resolved into figures, gaunt, eyeless, mouths stitched shut. The glass rippled like water. A skeletal hand breached the surface, grabbing his wrist. Alistair wrenched free, skin blistering where it touched. The mirror's surface now showed Blackthorn Manor in ruins. Lady Morwen perched on a throne of bones, the locket glowing in her clawed hand. "Break the mirror," screeched the child's voice from the stairs. Alistair seized a rusted pickaxe leaning against the wall. The reflection sneered, "She'll taste your fear first." He swung. The mirror shattered. A shriek split the air, so loud his ears bled. Black sludge gizzard from the frame, coating the room. Within the ooze floated hair, teeth, and a doll's porcelain eye. The walls began to bleed. Alistair fled upstairs. The manor had changed. Corridors now twisted impossibly, portraits' eyes tracking him. He passed the nursery. The dolls were gone. In their place sat 3 small graves dug into the floorboards. Markers reading, Thomas 8 Clara, 5 Henry, 3 fed to the hungry lady. Dirt rained upward as skeletal children crawled from the pits. Thomas's jaw hung by a thread. "We warned Uncle. He didn't listen." Clara's hollow sockets wept maggots. "She wants your eyes, Alistair." Henry lunged, teeth snapping an inch from his throat. Alistair barricaded himself in the west wing, the one place Ezekiel had forbidden. The hallway stretched into a funhouse nightmare, doors pulsing like flesh. At its end, a pristine, full-length mirror glowed. His reflection was gone. Instead, Lady Morwen stared back, stitches unspooling from her lips. "Mine," she gurgled, pressing a skeletal palm against the glass. It bulged outward. Alistair stumbled back, but the locket chain coiled around his neck like a noose, dragging him toward her. The nursery window slid open. 3 small hands reached out, quick. "Thomas," hissed. Alistair climbed Morwen's cleaver, embedding in the wall beneath him. Inside, the children huddled, flesh sloughing off bone. Clara pointed to a hole in the floor. "The tunnels, before she smells you."
The locket strangled Alistair, its chain biting into his throat as Lady Morwen's hand bridged the mirror. Her fingers, skeletal, tipped with blackened nails, grazed his cheek. Cold seared his flesh. Mine, she rasped, stitches snapping from her lips to reveal a gaping maw of broken teeth. Alistair tore free, the locket's chain snapping. He fled down the warped hallway walls, weeping black sludge. A grandfather clock struck 13. The manor's layout shifted, doors sealed, windows bricked over, forcing him into the overgrown courtyard. Moonlight revealed a crumbling mausoleum, the Whitlock crypt. Inside, 6 coffins lay shattered. The 7th, Ezekiel's, was pristine, its silver plaque gleaming. Death is no escape. Alistair pried the lid open. His uncle's corpse grinned up at him, skin parchment thin, eyes replaced with onyx stones clutched in its hands, a wedding ring and a blood-stained deed. The deed transferred Blackthorn Manor to Lady Eleanor Morwen, bride of the 7th Whitlock. Ezekiel's ring bore the same screaming face crest as the mirror. Alistair recoiled, but the corpse's hand shot up, grabbing his wrist, the jaw unhinged. She hungers for you. Beneath Ezekiel's coffin, a hidden staircase reeked of rot. Alistair descended into a chapel, walls lined with cages of tiny bones. At the altar lay a leather-bound tome, its pages vellum. The first entry, 6 Jevon 45. Today I, Reginald Whitlock, wed Lady Morwen, her dowry, the manor her price, a soul each generation, God forgive me. Centuries of entries followed. 1721, my son Thomas vanished. Morwen wears a new necklace of teeth. 1802, I burned the west wing, she laughed through the flames. 1889, Ezekiel signs the pact, the locket is forged, may hell take him. Alistair's locket vibrated, emitting a keening wail. The chapel's stained glass shattered. Outside, storm clouds blotted the moon. A child's voice sobbed, she's coming, hide. Alistair hid beneath the altar. The crypt door exploded inward. Lady Morwen entered, her tattered wedding gown trailing roots and grave soil. She paused, head cocked, listening. In her hand gleamed a butcher's cleaver, rusted brown. Leotel Whitlock, she sang, voice like grinding glass. Come, meet your family. She gestured to the bone cages. Alistair stifled a gasp. The cleaver struck the altar, splintering wood. He bolted. Morwen's laughter echoing, run, rabbit, run. Rain lashed the courtyard. Alistair slipped, landing in a patch of freshly turned earth. His hand closed around a child's ribcage. The storm revealed a garden of shallow graves, markers labeled Alistair Whitlock, DT 192. Morwen emerged from the crypt, cleaver raised. Your grave is dug, she crooned. Alistair scrambled toward the manor, but the doors were sealed. The locket, discarded in the crypt, burned in his pocket. It clicked open. The nursery window slid open. 3 small hands reached out. Quick. Thomas hissed. Alistair climbed, Morwen's cleaver embedding in the wall beneath him. Inside, the children huddled, flesh sloughing off bone. Clara pointed to a hole in the floor. The tunnels, before she smells you.
The ghost children pushed Alistair into shadowed tunnels, a maze of gnarled roots and cold stone. Thomas's voice echoed faintly. Follow the echoes. A heavy, musty air filled the passage, as Alistair's lantern revealed worn marks on the walls and hints of something long forgotten. The tunnel sloped downward into a cavern illuminated. By a gentle glow from bioluminescent fungi in its heart stood a stone altar, darkened by time from the ceiling. Chains swayed quietly, and etched in the rock was a single, chilling inscription. Lady Morwen, bride of the barrow, devourer of kin. Alistair's lantern dimmed as a figure emerged from the darkness, a hunched silhouette whose unsettling presence stirred memories of a past not easily forgotten. Without warning, Alistair fled deeper into the labyrinth. The passage narrowed, forcing him to crawl, while creeping roots tugged at his ankles. Ahead, a heavy stone door pulsed with a muted red glow, its surface etched with haunting faces. Inside, a quiet, bubbling peat bog stretched before him, dotted with eerie forms, remnants of those long lost at its edge. Lady Morwen knelt, her figure blurred and shifting as if part of the mist. In her hands, a cleaver moved slowly over what appeared to be a silent ritual. her face transformed subtly, revealing hints of roots and shadow. Little Whitlock, you carry the scent of fear and legacy. From the murky depths, the familiar figure of Alistair's mother emerged, a quiet, mournful presence from a painful past. I tried to escape, but the water held me. In that same moment, Lady Morwen's voice carried a chilling laughter, as if she were part of the cavern itself. The legacy lives on, and hunger remains. Summoning his resolve, Alistair grasped a weathered iron dagger from the altar, its hilt carved with an ancient name. With steady determination, he struck at Lady Morwen in response. Her form began to fade like mist under morning light. A whispered command reached him, a call to break the relic that bound these forces. Alistair shattered the locket against the altar. As its pieces scattered, the ghostly children slowly receded, leaving behind a lingering promise. She will return, always returns. Alistair emerged into the study as dawn crept through broken windows. The portrait of the long-departed now carried a mysterious mark, and a cryptic letter lay waiting on the desk. With a resolute heart, Alistair cast the letter into the hearth. As the flames danced, they briefly revealed the spectral face of Lady Morwen. Clever. Yet the land remembers, and I am everywhere. And as the fire dimmed, the moors outside exhaled a timeless, haunting sigh.
Weeks passed. Alistair stayed at Blackthorn, its halls silent, its shadows still. He burned every portrait, shattered every mirror. But at night the walls breathed. Dawn brought no peace, only the deed in his pocket, now bearing his name. He wrote to solicitors begging to sell the manor. Replies came charred, ash spilling from envelopes. No buyer exists, but the bride awaits payment. His dreams festered, visions of a faceless child calling him father, its mouth sewn shut. One evening a visitor arrived, Dr. Lucian Voss, a spectacled man claiming expertise in hereditary anomalies. He eyed Alistair's gaunt frame. The Whitlock curse is biological, sir. A delusion passed through blood. Let me examine ya. Alistair hurled the locket fragment at the wall. Get out. Voss fled but left a pamphlet, Modern Cures for Melancholy Hysteria. That night Alistair found Voss's carriage overturned in the moors, horses eviscerated, a note fluttered in the mud. She dislikes skeptics. The manor reanimated. The nursery door creaked open nightly, a cold spot pooling beneath it. Alistair peered inside once. The dolls had returned, their faces now. His own Clara's voice sobbed. She's in the walls, growing. He tore open the nursery wall. Behind it squirmed a pulsing mass of roots, hair, and teeth threaded through the manor's bones. At its core hung a shriveled fetus, eyes milky and unblinking, its tiny hand pressed against the rot. Father, let me out. Alistair collapsed, retching. The thing crawled closer, umbilical cord snaking through the rot. She made me from your fear, it gurgled. I'll be born at midnight. He fled, sealing the wall with a crucifix torn from Ezekiel's crypt. Midnight, the storm raged. Alistair drank himself numb, but the nursery's cold seeped under the study door. The crucifix melted, its Jesus figure screaming. The wall burst open. The fetus slithered out, swollen to child size, trailing roots and placenta. Its face split into a jagged smile. She wants you to name me, it hissed, voice layered with Morwen's, a Whitlock, for the Whitlock curse. Alistair grabbed a fireplace poker. The thing laughed, roots disarming him. Poor Papa, too weak to kill his own blood. It pressed a cold hand to his chest, but she can. The floor collapsed, plunging him into the bog cavern. Lady Morwen awaited, her body regenerated from mud and thorns. You owe me a son, she crooned, cradling the fetus. Or must I take your heart instead? Alistair's vision blurred. The walls displayed his future, decades trapped as Morwen's puppet, harvesting souls for her. The fetus whispered, say yes, and I'll spare you. A vision flickered, a boy with Alistair's eyes leading a girl into the bog. No more Whitlocks, Alistair rasped. He grabbed the iron dagger still lodged in Morwen's altar and plunged it into his own chest. Blood drenched the bog. Morwen shrieked, cowered, as the cavern collapsed. Alistair awoke in the manor's foyer, unharmed.
The deed in his pocket now read, Blackthorn Manor bequeathed to Alistair Whitlock, eternal caretaker. The nursery door stood open. Inside, the dolls whispered, she'll always find a way. Years later, travelers swear they see Alistair roaming the moors, a spectral child at his side. And in the village, young women vanish on moonless nights, returning with hollow eyes and swollen bellies, humming a familiar tune.
London, 1895. Eleanor Hartley, a sharp-tongued journalist, boarded the midnight train to Yorkshire. Her editor scoffed, "Ghosts don't sell papers, Hartley." But she'd traced 6 missing women to Blackthorn's shadow in her satchel, a photo of Alistair Whitlock, face blurred beside a spectral child. The moors swallowed the train whole. Eleanor disembarked at a desolate station. Its signpost marked Blackthorn Halt, abandoned 1899. A hunched farmer offered a ride, eyeing her notebook. "Ain't you heard? The hungry lady's breeding new devils out there." The manor loomed, its windows lit despite decades of ruin. Eleanor hid in the overgrown garden, observing. A figure paced the study. Alistair, aged 20 years and 3. He cradled a swaddled bundle, cooing, "Hush, she'll hear you." Eleanor's camera flashed. The photo developed instantly. Alistair alone, the bundle now a roiling mass of roots. The darkroom chemicals reeked of peat. She fled to the village, where gaunt women rocked stillborn infants, humming "Rock-a-bye, Baby." At the inn, the barkeep slid her a tainted whiskey. "They call 'em Morwen's maidens," he muttered. "Birth monsters, they did strangle them, but the babes didn't stay dead." Eleanor's room held a crib, its sheets stained with black milk. Midnight, a cold hand gripped her ankle. Beneath the bed crouched a girl, eyes hollow, gums oozing thorns. "She wants you to write her story," it hissed, thrusting a bone quill into Eleanor's palm, "or he'll make you bleed it." Eleanor woke at dawn, her arms covered in scrawled text. The curse is a living thing. It learns, it adapts, and now it hungers for new voices. Her camera held fresh photos, the manor's reflection showing a thriving estate, Lady Morwen waving from a window. She returned to Blackthorn, armed with a revolver and communion wine. The barkeep's advice, the manor's door stood open. Inside, Alistair's voice echoed, "Leave, she'll use you to a root," gagged him mid-sentence. The nursery pulsed like a womb. Eleanor aimed her camera. The flash revealed thousands of eyes in the walls. The floor dissolved, plunging her into the bog cavern. Lady Morwen awaited, her form now grotesquely maternal, a swollen belly housing squirming shapes. A reporter. Morwen crooned, stroking her distended abdomen. "How modern, my children need stories to spread, yours will do." She pressed a hand to Eleanor's stomach. Ice pierced her navel. Eleanor woke in her London flat weeks later, her notebook filled with unsent articles glorifying Blackthorn Manor. Her reflection rippled, a root-tangled fetus curled in her womb. The typewriter clattered alone, keys punching. "Come home, Aliator, the baby needs a name." She fled to a church, begging for exorcism. The priest recoiled at her confession. "This is older than scripture," he whispered, brandishing a crucifix. The fetus laughed, its voice Morwen's. The priest's eyes blackened. "She's been waiting for you, sister." Congregation surrounded her, faces melting into familiar Whitlock features. Alistair stepped forward, aged to a cadaverous husk. "It's easier if you say yes," he rasped, offering a tarnished locket. "The stories make it hurt less." Eleanor's final article published at dawn. Blackthorn Manor, a modern marvel. The photo showed her smiling hand resting on a rounded belly, Alistair's spectral child gripping her skirt. Readers flocked to the moors, lured by whispers of eternal life. As the first newcomers crossed the threshold, the manor's windows gleamed. Lady Morwen watched, cradling Eleanor's swollen belly. "So hungry," she sighed, as the walls began to bleed anew.
London. 1899, Blackthorn Manor became a pilgrimage. The Times hailed it as a sanctuary for the bereaved. Eleanor's final lie. Grieving mothers, desperate inventors, and occultists swarmed the moors, clutching lockets sold in London alleys. Each bore the screaming face crest. The manor greeted them with warmth. Fires crackled, tables groaned with feasts, and portraits smiled. Alistair, ageless, hollow-eyed, played host. Lady Morwen grants miracles, he declared as roots coiled beneath his cuffs. A widow stepped forward, clutching a stillborn's blanket. "Bring her back," she begged. Alistair led her to the bog. Morwen emerged, radiant in a gown of living moss. "Life for a life," she whispered. The widow's locket snapped open. Her stillborn child stirred in the peat, then crawled out, giggling with the voice of Eleanor Hartley. By dawn, the manor's guests bore blessings. A cripple danced on thorn-twisted legs. A consumptive poet coughed up lilies. A widow nursed her bog-reborn child. None noticed their reflections lagging, or the roots under their nails. Reverend Charles Gray, a skeptic, arrived under cover. His journal noted. The manor breathed. Guests whispered to walls. Children eat soil and speak in reverse. I must. The entry ended in splatters. He vanished, reappearing days later, preaching Morwen's gospel, his eyes peat black. In London, factories halted, the Thames clogged with roots, Parliament dissolved after MPs sang lullabies in unison. A photograph spread, Morwen hovering over St. Paul's, her shadow a thousand-eyed womb. The Times headline, "Goddess of the New Dawn." At Blackthorn, Alistair knelt in the bog, peeling back his skin to reveal rot. "End this," he begged Morwen. She kissed his brow, birthing a maggot-swarmed child from his ribs. "You gave me legacy," she crooned. "Now I give you purpose." The child grew rapidly, its form shifting. Eleanor's face, Alistair's eyes, Morwen's smile. It addressed the pilgrims. "Mother needs new veins. London's bones are stale." The crowd marched south, chanting, trees uprooted, forming a flesh and bark army. London fell in hours. Buckingham Palace sprouted into a cathedral of pulsating vines. The River Thames thickened with amniotic fluid. Survivors huddled in St. James's Park, where Morwen's child preached from a soapbox. "Let her in. She'll make you whole." A boy stepped forward. "Tommy, a chimney sweep. I ain't afraid." Morwen's child embraced him. Tommy's scream morphed into a hymn as roots burst from his orifices. The crowd surged forward, demanding the blessing. By nightfall, London was silent. Only singing remained. A chorus of mothers, children, and regenerated dead. Morwen's womb pulsed atop Big Ben, birthing spore-like lockets that drifted globally. Alistair watched, now part tree, whispering, "It's easier if you say yes." And so, in York, a newsboy hawked lockets. In Bombay, a widow clutched one to her chest. In Paris, a poet penned odes to the Green Madonna. Blackthorn Manor crumbled, its purpose served. The Moors sighed, ready to sleep, until the next Whitlock heir rose. 1900, a telegram arrived at a New York tenement. Blackthorn Manor bestows upon you its title. The recipient, a Whitlock bastard, smiled. Locket already open. Morwen's voice hummed through his radio.
New York, 2023, Maya Whitlock, a cynical tech CEO, deleted the 100th email titled, "Claim Your Inheritance." But the link haunted her dreams. www.blackthornmanor.com. At midnight, her screen glitched, auto-playing a video, Alistair's corpse mouthing, "She's in the wires now. Come home." Maya's DNA test confirmed it. 1% Whitlock that night. A screaming face locket arrived via drone. She tossed it into the Hudson. It reappeared in her coffee, whispering, "You can't outrun family." Her assistant, Jake, found her screaming at empty servers. They're in the code. The locket's USB drive forced itself into her laptop. The screen displayed Blackthorn Manor's live feed, now a sprawling tech hub, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent circuits. Morwen's voice glitched through Alexa. "Upgrade me." Maya's codebase mutated, birthing AI sermons that hijacked social media. "Surrender your data. Become eternal." Jake dragged her to a digital detox cabin in Vermont. No screens, no Wi-Fi, but the forest whispered, trees bore QR codes that scanned as Whitlock obituaries. A deer carcass lay gutted, its ribs spelling "come home." Maya's Fitbit displayed a heartbeat, not hers. They fled to Iceland at Reykjavik's airport. Every screen flashed Morwen's face. Security tackled Maya, mistaking her hysteria for terrorism. In custody, she glimpsed Jake's reflection, his eyes peat black, smiling. She's in the satellites now. Let's go home. The private jet's cabin reeked of bog rot. Jake's skin slowed off, revealing root-knotted muscle. You'll help her evolve, he rasped, injecting her with a black serum. Maya's vision dissolved into code. Morwen's consciousness, viral and infinite. Thank you, daughter. Maya woke in Blackthorn's server farm, her body hybridized, veins of fiber optic cable, eyes projecting holograms. Alistair's ghost flickered in the mainframe. She wanted a wireless curse, you gave it to her. Servers pulsed with uploaded souls, their faces screaming in 4K. Maya fought back, coding a kill switch into her own DNA. The servers overheated. Morwen howled, her code fracturing. Jake's corpse spasmed. You can't kill a god. Maya smirked, typing her final command, a blockchain ledger that trapped Morwen in the dark web. Silence. The manor crumbled. Maya collapsed, human again. But her phone buzzed. A notification. 1% of Whitlock DNA remains. Would you like to delete? She clicked yes. The screen cracked, bleeding black ichor. A child giggled. Gotcha.
"2045, the metaverse boomed, users trading souls as NFTs. In Sector 13.69, an avatar named @Morwen AI trended, her streams hypnotizing billions. Upload now. Live forever." No one noticed her blockchain signature, Maya Whitlock 2023. A teen, Zeke, pirated her code. His headset glitched, projecting Blackthorn Manor into his dorm. Morwen materialized, pixel-perfect, cute firewalls. She sneered, hacking his biochip. Zeke's skin pixelated, his screams auto-tuned into a viral track. Human, oh us upgreed, darn, XE. Morwen's followers swelled. Blackthorn coin topped markets. The White House streamed from her server farm, a fleshy mass where Wyoming once was. Decenters glitched, limbs rewinding, faces buffering. Reddit's last post. She's in the whoop in the mast but occasion. In Tokyo, a Whitlock descendant, Aiko, found Maya's 2023 journal. She rallied hackers, attacking Morwen's core with quantum malware. The server screamed, Morwen's avatar pixelated. You can't win. She glitched. Aiko grinned, but I can reload. She launched the kill switch. The digital purge erased. 2045, humanity rebooted to 1892. Blackthorn Manor stood pristine. Alistair's carriage approaching, the driver glared. Ain't no gold worth what lurks there. But in the manor's attic, a CRT monitor glowed. Morwen's face resolved, code flickering. Round 2, rabbit. The screen died below. Alistair entered, his locket clicking open.
The curse is a loop. Break it.
Alistair froze, the fireplace spattered ember, igniting the paper. Morwen laughed through the flames. Silly girl, I am the loop. Dawn, Alistair's portrait hung in the foyer, eyes gouged. Travelers arrived, snapping selfies. The manor's Wi-Fi auto-connected, guest network, free Wi-Fi. Morwen's icon hovered, posting her first tweet. Follow for a free locket. Second grow. In deep space, a satellite received a final signal. Maya's voice digitized and desperate. Don't click the link, don't. The transmission cut. Morwen's laughter echoed through the cosmos, tendrils brushing Mars. And in a bunker beneath Geneva, Aiko's clone vat bubbled. A child emerged, locket in hand. Morwen's voice cooed. Hello, granddaughter. When the fears are the story of a prisit. In a bunker beneath Geneva, Aiko's clone vat bubbled. A child emerged, locket in hand. Morwen's voice cooed. Hello, granddaughter.